Hello, and welcome back to Dr. Heidi, the Business Psychologist podcast. I am your host, Dr. Heidi. Today we have with us Sheila Kamuda from Live Out Loud Coaching. Welcome, Sheila.
Hi there.
It's a pleasure to have you on. We're just going to have you start. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what Live Out Loud Coaching is.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. I love this opportunity, and I hope to give your listeners something important and significant for them to hear.
Oh, I'm confident you will.
Yes, I became a coach in 2018. I had been coaching off and on before then, but I became a certified coach in 2018. And what led up to it was my husband had become ill, and he actually passed away in 2012. So now it's been 10 years. And it took me a long, long time to get through that. The grieving process, and I would say the growing process and the healing process took quite a long time. And just to find myself again, we were very close, and we had a daughter, and my daughter was 15 at the time when he passed away. And the whole thing was very difficult. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this kind of loss. And I realized through my process, after I had finally pulled it together day by day, moment by moment, it was very difficult. He had done so many things. I was still working, and when our daughter Sydney was 2, he retired. So he took care of everything. I relied on him for everything. He was incredible. And I had to learn how to do things on my own. I'm a very independent person, very independent thinker, but he just took care of the house, really. Mm-hmm. And now I was going to work, getting the kid. I barely drove. I lived in Seattle at the time. It was very difficult. So it was huge. I lost my partner, I lost my friend, and I lost myself. And I had to learn how to get back to who I was. And through that, I realized, oh, this is what people talk about empowerment. I mean, that was just a word at that point. It didn't mean anything. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what this means. Not while I was going through it, but by the time I finally had some strength and knew what I was doing and felt good about myself. And I realized, oh my gosh, if I could help other people. And, as we were saying, loss is loss. Right. It could be a loss of a partner. It could be a loss of a friendship, a loss of a job, anything. We've all been there. Mm-hmm. And it's all hard. It's all very, very hard to get through it. And I learned that, oh my God, I got to the other side. I didn't think I was going to every day. And one thing I did just really quick was I had the need to talk to him. And what I started to do is I started to write letters, and I would write them in journals. And I wrote letters, one a day, for 6 years. And I counted them. I have 1,891 letters that I wrote to him. Wow. And it was about my life. It was about I paid this bill. It was about I drove to the store. It was about Sydney's theater production of Rent. It was all this stuff going on. And it really helped me heal. But we have to use whatever we can to help us heal. Mm-hmm. And in that, I'm like, wow, I did it. I did it. And I felt like that was really important for me to help other people. I was also, I had a position at one time where I was a leader of a team, and I loved it. I loved helping them through their problems with work. I loved helping them through their personal issues. I wanted them to feel safe. I just enjoyed it so much. So that when the time came for me to think about, what's next, which is what we all should think about. I hate the word retirement. It's like the worst word in the world to me. But I wanted to know, how can I use what I have? Mm-hmm. You use your gifts, your talents, your skills, absolutely, whatever, and you figure it out. And so I became a coach. And I developed Live Out Loud Coaching. And it's really to help people create the life that they want, and to help them get to their future self, and to help do that as soon as we can. And it all starts with us. It all starts inside. Everything starts inside. Nothing starts on the outside. And we have to think of ourselves and value ourselves. And that's what I use the word badass in my branding. That's what badass is to me.
Mhm.
To think about you and to start with you. And I wrote these journals. I self-published these journals. And the first one I did was called My Badass Journal. And in it has 52 guided prompts. If you've never journaled before, they're easy to do, but they're very insightful. There are quotes for a little inspiration. And I have what I call a badass manifesto. And I broke that down into 10 principles. And these 10 principles actually kind of are a guide to help you live your life. One of the principles is no apologies. Make no apologies for who you are and what you love and what you do. I mean, another one is you get to choose. You can choose. You can choose your mood. You may not be able to choose your boss or whatever, but you can choose your mood. You could choose how you're going to respond to something. It's incredible. So, and in fact, I do a workshop called Design Your Life, and I use those principles for that workshop. And then I realized, wow, I like sharing my information and my philosophy this way. So I wrote another one called My Badass Gratitude Journal, because I love gratitude. And I really believe that gratitude is magical. I've been in situations where I've actually been in a terrible situation, and I will start saying, thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you, thank you, thank you. And honestly, it has turned the situation around. It's unbelievable. And so I use that all the time. And in fact, I've done a workshop through Creative Mornings. I don't know if people have heard of that. They're on Zoom. It's completely free. And I'm doing actually another one in May. It's called Going Beyond Thank You. And it's about me explaining why I think it's magical and why we should make it a practice in our life.
Yeah. And I think just to chime in for a second on gratitude, it also just makes me think about feedback that we give our own employees. And one of the things I have definitely seen over the years is when something goes wrong, which obviously needs to be addressed, we're very, very quick to point those things out.
Yes.
But when things are going right, we're very slow to pass out the gratitude and, say thank you. I definitely think there has been in certain industries, certain companies have done better at this, at transitioning to focusing more on that. But I do believe that feedback is valuable. And I think that we need to provide that level of both positive and constructive feedback. I word that very specifically because I don't believe there's anything called negative feedback. I believe constructive criticism that some people refer to as negative feedback is only there to help us learn. And I think, the mindset that we need to think about when we hear those things is very important, as you're talking about, that is our chance to say, thank you. This is what I've taken away from it. This is how I've learned. And these are the things that now I can do as an individual to get better at these things. So we should be grateful for those opportunities, because you're either doing very well and winning at something, or you're learning. And that's really all that life is.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There was a time also when I led this team that I had developed a pathway for managers to do one-on-ones. And part of it was, remember, feedback is also praise. So important. And if there is something that you have to tell a staff member that they need to do differently, or that's just redirection. That's all it is. Right. Because as humans, we need to evolve. We want to evolve. And it's their delivery that's usually the problem. It's not what they're saying. People just need to be trained, and they need to practice how to deliver this information with love and with, this is great that you're doing this. And now, you know what? I need you to go here because I know you can, because you've impressed me so much. That's how you deliver that. So
framing, shaping, everything. I
just don't know. Critical. Managers aren't trained. They're thrown into a role, I found, and they're never trained on how to lead people. And it actually drives me crazy, to tell you the truth.
Well, you bring up a good point there, Sheila, and that is managers versus leaders. In Western culture, prior to probably about a decade ago, managers were very different and needed very different skill sets than leaders needed, because what our employees looked like at that time were very, very different. They did a lot more what we refer to as right brain work, very rudimentary type work. Now our employees are doing much more left brain work. We're driving creativity, we're driving innovation. And so, yes, we might have the title manager and we might be at that level in a hierarchy, but the manager, in terms of what we knew it 10 years ago, is no longer what the manager today should be looking like, and the skill set that they need to have. The manager needs to be a leader. So there really is no difference between managers and leaders at this point. We all, when we're in a position of power and authority and we oversee individuals, we need to consider ourselves a leader in the workplace as we are today.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. It's, and also pull the magic out of people.
Mm-hmm.
We as leaders, or whatever, leaders, managers, somebody in charge, you have to pull that magic out of somebody, because people have so much. It's like a child. They have so much there, and you just have to pull the magic out rather than belittle or diminish their value.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, honestly, a staff member has to kind of train their boss, tell you the truth.
In a way, right?
I have to do that. Like,
yep.
and I always say to people, this is your time, if you have a one-on-one with somebody, to say, or when you have a performance review, and sometimes they have those self-evaluations you do, it's like, that's the time to toot your horn. What are you afraid of? Say, no, this is what I did. And this is what it resulted in. And maybe you don't know that I did this. You weren't in. You don't see everything I'm doing. And the staff member needs to do that. They need to value themselves and show that value to their boss.
Absolutely. And sometimes what we find too is that an employee is just not in the right position. And that doesn't mean they're of no value to the organization. That doesn't mean we should automatically let them go. Now, unfortunately, there are going to be certain times that it probably is the end result. But through the concepts of job rotation, job reskilling, upskilling, trying different models out can really keep somebody retained within your organization. And I have a very interesting story. When I was working at Boston Medical Center, we had an individual who was working for us, and it just wasn't the right fit. And my manager and myself were talking one day, and just jokingly we said, wouldn't it be great if we just had a job where she could talk? Because she just loved to engage with others and talk to people. And we just, of course, said it jokingly. And then all of a sudden I said, wait a minute, we do. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, our patient intake line. She would literally spend the entire day talking with patients. And so we talked with the person who was in charge of that area and agreed to give it a trial run and shift it over. And I can tell you, I've been gone. That happened when I was there after about 5 years. And I've been gone from there about 16, 17 years. But I check in every once in a while. There's a few people, she's still in the same position today and loving it. Their patient satisfaction rates have gone up. She engages with everybody. She has her own coding system where we asked her one day, we're like, what do these colors mean? And so she was like, oh, if I mark somebody as red, I'm afraid they're going to come to the appointment and wait in the waiting room and not stay, and they're going to leave. And so she goes, I meet them with, I turn off my phone, I pass it off to somebody else, and I go meet them with a cup of coffee, and I talk about their grandkids, and I have my notes, what they like to talk, and I make sure that they stay there until their appointment time. And it's just a small example like that, sometimes it's just about giving people other experiencing, moving them horizontally, moving them laterally, trying different things out, evolving their skill set to see where maybe they are the best fit.
And you're talking also about really knowing somebody, really understanding what they're good at, really understanding what their talents are, what their gifts are, because everybody, as I call it, everybody brings something to the party, and it's unique. And, you reminded me of something. I'll try to make this really fast. Ages ago, I worked at the New Yorker magazine. I grew up in New York, and I was there for 9 years. And the first job I had there, it was in sales, advertising. And I worked for this woman who was incredible, actually, incredible. I've stayed friends with her. She's gone on to do amazing things, but she was always like 20 paces ahead of me. and I adored her, but I was always scared going. It was very difficult for me. I was young. I was an idiot. I didn't know what I was doing. And I think, she wanted to get rid of me. And the human resources person, it was one of the best I have ever known. He saw something and he says, I want to try something. There's this other person who's the director of international advertising, a big shot. Well, that guy's secretary is going away, getting married, honeymoon, whatever it was. Let's put Sheila in there for a week. Let's see what she can do. He knew maybe it's you, maybe it's the environment.
Mm-hmm.
It was so unbelievable that when the connection was incredible. It was incredible. And when his secretary came back and then she left for good, he asked for me. And I was with him 3 years and then I was promoted to a different role. And he cried when I left. So, but all it takes is really getting to know a person. And sometimes you have to show them who you are.
Right.
It takes two. The staff member has to also show and show them, this is what I'm good at. This is what, if you're organized, whatever it is,
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I work with a lot of students, and in my organizational behavior course, my students are only allowed to take the course after they've been on 2 of their co-ops already. So it's great because they had a little taste of the work life. They come back to the classroom, they learn a little bit more, but now they have valuable lessons to take on to their more permanent jobs. And as they talk about their jobs and they detail them out and they explain what happened or what didn't happen, what they didn't like, what they did like, I asked them a very simple question. Did you ever bring that up with your manager? Did you ever discuss that with them? And the look of just awe and shock come over their face like, what do you mean? And I said, these are all valuable things that you're talking about and great things that you could have brought to the organization or helped maybe a future co-op down the line so the leader understood that these things needed to shift or change or be a little bit different. And I said, but they're busy human beings as well. I said, you need to sometimes start the dialogue. Oh, well, those are very difficult conversations to have. And we're only co-ops. And I said, it doesn't matter. You still bring value to the table. And I said, remember that. And I always say, remember that when you go out now to your permanent positions and you graduate, that it's a two-way conversation. If you don't advocate for yourself and bring things up, they're not going to know what's going on in your world. And I said, you might get very lucky and you might get that relationship going where the boss does play a very active role and engages you to bring it out of you. But I said, if they're not, sometimes you have to make that step. And hopefully the two of you will kind of make a step towards each other. And if you don't, well, then sometimes a change has to happen. But, we have to be able to speak up from both sides as well.
Right. And it really starts with valuing yourself. So often, it's funny. I always say when we're little kids, our parents, if we have good parents, they're cheerleaders, they pat us on the back, they tell us, yes, go for it, do it. But when you're an adult, nobody's doing that. You have to do it yourself. And very often we kind of diminish ourselves, and that really needs to stop. We need to value ourselves. We're important.
Absolutely. And I think one of the challenges, I do a lot of my academic research is on women trying to work up the corporate ladder and to break down these invisible barriers that are in place. And then through my consulting work, I work with a lot of women. And, one of the things I'm very, very grateful for is throughout my career, and this was a rarity, I've been partnered and I've always had great coaches, mentors along the way that have always helped me and got me to where I needed to be. And to this day, I call them all still my friends, and we're still very connected. We have great networks. And, but it is a rarity. A lot of women do not have those support structures, do not get the opportunity of having those coaches, those mentors. And they hit these barriers, invisible barriers, but they hit these barriers, and you hit them enough after a while, you just kind of say to yourself, I'm never going to make it. I can't get through this. I can't do it. Maybe, I'm not going to think about trying this way or trying that way. I can't get through. I can't get through. When you work with people in those areas, like, how do you work through that with them? How do you counsel them to kind of understand that, yes, you might hit this barrier, but let's rethink it. Let's go a different direction.
Well, first, yeah, I totally agree. And there's always a barrier because without the barrier, we don't grow. I mean, I know it's hard. Yup. Here we are again, learning another lesson. That's what life's about. But every time something's been hard, it's because we've evolved and we've learned something new. And no matter what, um, it really, I mean, it sounds very, not down to earth, but the point is you have to believe in yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
No one is going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself, because they're going to sense that energy.
Yeah.
And you have to go in it like you're royalty and you know your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you have something that nobody else has. And guess what? You do have something nobody else has. You know what that is? Your own history, your own experience, your own expertise, your own family story, your own losses, your own successes, your own challenges. Oh my God, that's magic. And you have to know that. And when you know that, you can break through anything because you're strong and nothing is going to diminish you. And you stop putting people on that pedestal. Very, very important. We put gods on that pedestal and doctors on that pedestal and people that, pay us on that pedestal and all of that. And yes, they do pay us. They can fire us at any second, but that's not the point. The point is we put them up there as if they're more important. They're not more important than you.
Right.
Nobody's more important than you
Yeah.
because you have your own story. You have your own stuff that you bring. And nobody can diminish that. No one. You're the only one that can diminish that.
Absolutely.
And that's how we start. We start there. We start with, how do you feel about yourself?
Yeah.
We start with, how do you feel about yourself? Because if you don't matter to you, you're not going to matter to someone else.
Right.
That's a tough one.
One thing I think about, Sheila, is I think about my listeners and some of the questions that have been raised through my consulting and stuff. And I completely agree. They need to have that mindset first. They need to be their own cheerleaders for themselves. Once they've kind of have that mindset and they're ready to say, okay, I believe in myself, I'm going to do this. But then they hit this next level of, oh no, there's a risk involved here. And so it leads me, in the org behavior world, it leads me to think about like Maslow's hierarchy. And we're talking about people that, kind of, in the middle of Maslow's. And, if they take this risk, they might actually attain that self-actualization, which we all kind of desire and want to move for. But if they take the risk, there's also that chance, then that question in the back of their mind, oh boy, am I going to kind of not be successful at this? Am I going to have my safety needs not met? And, they might feel also that they're in a position, they're a single mom or they're a 2-income house, but inflation's going up, costs are going up. Can I take this risk? So even if we are our own cheerleaders and we get to that point of like, okay, we're ready to take that leap. Now, how do we overcome that next step of risk and that worry of that risk?
Well, I think that, and we've all been there, I call it the comfy couch. We all want to stay on the comfy couch because it's really scary out there. And I think that's when our inner critic, our saboteur, our demons, our gremlins, whatever your favorite word is, they come in and they whisper, sometimes very loudly, don't do that. You have all these bills to pay. What if you're a failure? Oh my God, you've been doing just fine. Why are you rocking the boat? Your family is going to give you hell for this. Oh my goodness. And that's all that is. And so you stay very unhappy, knowing that there's more for you to do, knowing that there's more life out there for you to live, and knowing you can have it. And then we convince ourselves and we run away. We do this all the time. This is why so many people do not have, and it's very hard to take a risk. Believe me, I know with anything, it's very, very difficult. I just moved recently, and let me tell you, that was years in the making because I was afraid to get off what I call the comfy couch of what if I move and if I don't like it? What if the bills are higher? What if it's not really what I want? I can never come back. It's always risk. It's very, very difficult. But if you have a desire and you know it's right, you're not just doing it because somebody told you to do it, because that's the wrong reason. That's when you don't follow it. But when it keeps nagging at you and pulling you, there's only one thing you can do is kick your demons the hell out of the house and take one baby step towards your goal. One baby step, that's all you need to do.
That's
And
great.
once you take that baby step and you're like still breathing, you realize, oh my God, I'm still standing. You're going to take the next baby step and you are going to get there.
Yep.
You are.
That's great advice. Well, Sheila, it's been great talking to you. Is there something I haven't asked that you wish I did ask, that any last bit of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I just would love to say that I really believe this, because I've had a lot of hard stuff and I've had a lot of challenges, and everybody always says that, but it's really true that whatever you want, really follow what your inner voice is telling you. Find a way, get the help, get the mentoring if you need to. Don't listen to friends that aren't on board. Do what serves you, because you deserve it. Do what serves you. That's what I would say.
Excellent. That's such a great message to leave everybody with. So if they want to reach out to you, Sheila, after this, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yes, my website is liveoutloudcoaching.com. And you could see all about me. You could find out everything you want on the contact page. You can put in a little note, hey, I want to chat if you want to. My books are there. You can click on them and it'll bring you to Amazon if you want to check them out. Liveoutloudcoaching.com is the best way.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Sheila. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. What a great opportunity. Thank you so much.